Hi Trinity Rock and Pop Drummers, quick talk through for you here of the improvising test from Trinity Rock and Pop Drums grade 4. This is all about reggae and R&B, the two new styles that come in for this grade. Now a few things to say here. One is I think this is a really fun part of the exam, whereas when you play your pieces, although there's lots of bits within that where you get to be creative and do your own thing. On the whole there, we're like an actor on stage, aren't we? Saying the lines, we're sort of playing a part. Now here, you get a chance to do your own thing, to show your skills, to show what you're all about as a drummer, obviously within the confines of a musical style, so there's a bit of stylistic knowledge here as well, but really this is your chance to shine, I think, if you choose to do improvising. The other thing to say about this is obviously you're at grade 4 here, so this stands on the shoulders of the skills from grades 1, 2 and 3. Hopefully if you're here watching this video, you've done those already. If not, please check in the description below. I've got videos for the improvising test for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Short version, grade 1 is rock and pop and ballad feel, all in 4/4. Grade 2, rock, pop, ballad and country in 4/4 and possibly 3/4 as the time signatures. And at grade 3, you got blues, which can be straight or swung, again in 4/4 and 3/4. So please check those out. The other big thing I want to say about this before we start is this is improvising, right? So I'm not going here to tell you what to play by any means. I'll give you as many useful hints as I can about playing in the right styles and some cool sort of stylistic knowledge, but and the history of the styles and that kind of stuff, but I can't tell you what to play. And the whole point of this is a long game, man. This is you building up your skills about playing and drum fills and your musical instincts and your musical ear and all that kind of stuff. So it does get increasingly harder to go up through the grades to sum up like what this is, and I certainly can't tell you what to play in a sort of short video. So anyway, I'll do my best to say as many useful things as I can about this. As I say, if you need to check out grade 1, 2, 3, those videos are linked in the description. I'm going to steam in with grade 4. Now here we're talking about reggae and R&B. I'll go to R&B first because I think this is the one that is the most confusing. The thing is, the term R&B, right, has been applied to loads of different styles of music, I would say, over the years. And I think there are at least 3, probably 4, main eras where the term has been used and applied to different things, basically. I'll do this in a quickest version I can. I'll link as well in the description below to the Wikipedia page for R&B because I read it this morning, it's really interesting. So the first example, I think, of R&B being used to label music is in the 1940s. The music that's kind of African-American music, a precursor to rock and roll, I guess. That's the first one. That's not what this is, but that's the first example of R&B being applied as a label to music. The second example, I'd say that goes to the 40s and 50s. The second example is in the 60s. Well, I wasn't really massively aware of this, but apparently the term R&B was there used to apply to what we now think of just British rock music. So the Rolling Stones and the Who and the Animals apparently were given as examples of bands that were referred to as R&B there. I was pretty clueless about that. I just thought they were rock bands, but there you are. That is rock. R&B was applied to those. This isn't that either. In the 70s, we're getting a bit warmer here in terms of what we're doing with the improvising test. In the 70s, it was kind of used to apply across the board to soul and funk music, right? So Stevie Wonder and those sort of artists were referred to as R&B then. And then the Wikipedia page, which I think is pretty spot on, from the 80s onwards, says the Wikipedia page, it says it's been applied to this music, which is a mixture of sort of soul and pop and funk and sort of ballady type of feels as well, I would say, from the 80s. And it mentions artists again like Stevie Wonder, but also R. Kelly, Shaka Khan, even Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. And I would say even beyond that, in the sort of late 90s or 2000s, I remember the term R&B being used to label music which is more sort of urban music, a bit more sort of rap-based music. I guess it had its history in that stuff that came before, or moved on from the 80s, sort of 90s stuff that came before. Now, in this book, which I totally recommend, by the way, the book of examples for the rock and pop session skills, to my ears, the examples that are labelled as R&B are mostly in that 80s and 90s sort of soul, funk, pop, ballad feel. So the long story short here, you don't have to, there's no one particular beat where like this is the R&B beat. You need to be ready to play a straight 8s feel, as in something like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and. You need to be ready to play a shuffle feel. Or swung quavers on the hi-hat. All right. And you need to be able to play a triplet feel or 6/8, 12/8 feel. and also to be able to just musically respond to what you're hearing. So it might well be that it's a ballad kind of vibe where you need to play more softly. It might well be that it's more strong than that, so it's definitely a full snare drum thing from the start. It might be that you go from the side stick feel to the main snare. So you really do, rather like country music, I reckon, at grade 2, you really do need to be able to use your ears here and respond to what's happening. Another option might be a 16th note feel here, by the way, either with one stick, or if it's a little faster with 2 sticks. So what I'll do is in the description below put a link to each of my videos that describes each of those basic feels, as well as a couple of things about playing in 3/4, because that is quite likely to come up as well. So you can sort of digest that, and that's going back to that point that, again, at this point, grade 4, we can't really pithily sum up like exactly what you're going to play. That's why it's called improvising, right? You have to sort of have a range of skills and knowledge yourself that you're then going to use. But that's the best thing I can say about R&B, that kind of 80s, 90s flavoured sort of soul, funk, sort of potentially ballad kind of pop feel. It's pretty open-ended, so the best possible thing to do, I've said it before, I'll say it again, check out the book, and I'll link to it in the description below where you can find this. And this is the Trinity book of examples for grades 3 to 5 for session skills, and that'll really give you an idea of some of the sort of possible things that might come up for R&B. Okay, now reggae music, well, this is a load of fun. It's a little more clear, I think, what we can say about this. Again, I'll link to the Wikipedia page for reggae, because I actually find it really interesting, and it's got a really great section about drums where it talks about the one-drop feel and the steppers beat and the rockers beat. The one-drop feel is probably, above all else, the biggest thing, I would say, in reggae. Certainly the thing that's going to work along with a lot of the examples. Now, the one-drop feel, so-called, is where you've got the snare drum, which is not always, but often, a side stick, and the kick drum dropping at the same time. Now, if you count it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, as in a straight 8s feel, the kick here will go with the snare drum at the same time, not on the 1 and the 3, but on the 2 and the 4. That's the one-drop feel. The hi-hat can be played straight. For some cool variations, it might be swung. So again, you've got to use your ears there, but that's the one-drop feel. Some other cool things that often happen in reggae is the bass drum will play more frequently. So you can play, rather than just one drop, often the bass drum on 1, 2, 3 and 4 can sound good. Which I think is referred to as the steppers beat. Anyway, 4 on the floor, basically. And there is a time and a place as well for playing, if you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and every 8th note on the kick as well. So it really is a case of listening to as much reggae music as possible. Stick on the best of Bob Marley and have a little listen to that. Get jamming some of those grooves along, have a bit of fun, find your sort of flow with the reggae thing. Something that often happens quite often as well is the hi-hat accenting on the ands. Say that you're playing a one drop. 3 and 4 and 1 quite quite fun. All depends on what the music's doing. The best possible thing you can do is basically, as I say, have a listen to some Bob Marley, maybe some Jimmy Cliff, some other great reggae artists, and just sort of get into the feel and the flow of that, just jam along with that a little bit and get a feel. When you're thinking about the drum fills for reggae, some cool features can be playing, like often snares off, rim shots. Obviously it can be a great sound for reggae, sort of recreating the sound of like bongos or congos or timbales even. Often when you play a drum fill, you won't play the crash like on beat one, like so typically in rock music, which presumably a lot of guys at this point would have done more of. Often what we do though is we crash in, don't we, on beat one. And sometimes you do that on reggae, but quite often you don't. Quite often the crash, if there is one, might be at the end of the bar on beat 4, or maybe even the end of beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or even the end of beat 4. Some fun things to play around with. The one-drop feel, I would say, is right at the heart of everything. That's your kind of go-to reggae groove, it is for me anyway. Then those steppers and rockers beats of playing the kick drum on the quarter note and the kick drum on the 8th note, they can be nice additions. You might do them, like you might progress from perhaps from the one-drop to one of those, add a bit of intensity. One of the great things to do, of course, with your improvising, we've talked about it at the grade 1, grade 2 and grade 3, is to show some progression, because these are fairly long examples and you want to keep the listener interested, I always think. So whatever groove you're playing, it's really nice to make some changes to it as it goes along. So it might well be that you start off on the hi-hat, playing a side stick with a one-drop feel with the kick going with the snare. But then it might be that as it progresses, you add a bit of intensity by doubling up on the kick, going to 4 on the floor with the kick. Maybe you go to a regular hit on the snare. Progression is really important, I think. Whether you're playing R&B or reggae music, make sure there's some kind of progression in there. So that's reggae music. Now, one other cool thing to say about the improvising for grade 4 is follow the chart. This is something that I've witnessed a lot of people not doing, honestly, and a few guys, so probably the minority of guys, truly doing it. And that's going to get you more marks, because if you're following the chart, what you can do is you can see there's some bars there that have 2 chords in them at grade 4. So often the chord is like written at the beginning of the bar, as in the chord that the keys and the guitars are playing. Sometimes though, there's 2 chords, which typically, like if you're in 4/4, would be on beat 1 and beat 3, right? So what you can do if you're following the chart is you can bring that, you can enhance that and support that. Really show that you're being a musician here and following the chart along. For example, say that you had a chart that in the first 4 bars had a chord on the first beat of the first bar, chord on the first beat of the second, chord on the first beat of the third, but then in the 4th bar had a chord on the 1 and the 3. And say that it was reggae, right? So, first bar, second bar, third bar, 4th bar. Seeing that? So as the chord went chord 2, chord 4 in the 4th bar, just as an example there, I kind of went with the crashes as a way of bringing that out. That's a really good option. So here, it's more than just can I play something tasty, like can I play something musically appropriate that stays in time. If you can do that, if you can show that you're really truly following the chart as well, and maybe not every time, but at least sometimes bring out, or augment and enhance and complement the rhythm that the other guys in the band are playing, that would be seriously cool. I'd say that's a kind of distinction level move, assuming the other stuff that you're playing sounds good. If you can sort of really bring, and you might hear these chords happening as well by ear to a certain extent. If you're following it on the page, you can be certain of landing that in the right spot. I think that's a really good look. If you go with those sort of hits with the chords, that can be a great sound. So hopefully that was useful. It's really, I know people always ask me, can I make a video for this grade improvising, this grade improvising? It is quite hard, honestly, to sort of sum up, as I say, in a pithy way, like play this, play that, because by its nature, especially as you progress, it becomes a pretty big open-ended thing. But hopefully that's useful. The R&B thing to repeat is way open-ended, and check out the Wikipedia page about R&B. It's really interesting, I think, how that one term, which stands for rhythm and blues, by the way, if I didn't say that earlier, has been applied to these sort of maybe 4 or more different sort of eras and different, like wildly different kinds of music, right? So if you think of the Rolling Stones, and then you think of, I don't know, R. Kelly, like there's 2 examples of artists that referred to as R&B. They're quite far apart, aren't they? Like musically, you're not going to mistake one for the other. You know, no offense to either of them. So, just it's a really open-ended thing. I think it's all about that sort of 80s, 90s soul pop vibe, but really that's pretty open-ended in what you're going to play. Just like country music at grade 2, use your ears and and go with what feels right there. Straight 8th feel, 16th notes, triplet feel, shuffle. I'll link to all those basic grooves if you're not up on those in the description below. And with the reggae thing, well, for me the one-drop is the go-to rhythm. That snare and kick landing together on the 2 and the 4. And one thing I meant to say about that as well is sometimes, especially guitarists for some reason in reggae, often that's referred to as the 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would never count it like that, but often reggae guys seem to. Typically we're used to hitting a snare drum on 2 and 4, aren't we, a backbeat, but sometimes reggae guys refer to it as the 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, worth being aware of that. So one drop is the go-to rhythm, but then there's the steppers and the rockers where you add the bass drum on all 4 beats of the bar, if you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the quavers or the 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and which can really add some great intensity. Maybe change from one to the other, build it up, some nice drum fills, consider snares off, hitting a rim shot, where you hit the rim of the drum and the centre at the same time to recreate those great sort of percussion sounds you hear lots of in reggae drumming. Often a crash at the end of the bar on the 4 or the end of beat 4 can be a better bet than crashing in on beat 1. Gets away from that kind of rock sound a little bit. Mostly with both of these styles of music, give them a listen, man. For the R&B, stick on some Whitney Houston, some Shaka Khan, some R. Kelly, some Stevie Wonder, some Prince even, to really get a feel for what that's all about. With the reggae thing, massively, of course, stick on Bob Marley and whatever other reggae artists that you can. I say Bob Marley's but the main go-to guy there for great drumming sort of inspiration. And have some fun with it. Any questions about that or anything else, give us a shout. In terms of this channel, thanks so much for watching as always. Please like, share and subscribe. If you want to get a notification every time I upload a video, please click the little bell icon and you'll get that. Please follow Mike Barnes Drums on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks to all the lovely people who buy me a coffee. Appreciate that no end, that's great. And keeps me going. And one last thing, if you want to consider supporting this channel, please visit my Amazon shop. That's amazon.co.uk/shop/Mike Barnes Drums. Again, you guessed it, in the description below. And that's all the drum stuff that I use and recommend, all the sort of accessories. And thanks a million for watching as always. See you soon. Thanks a lot.